Yeah. Please act as if I didn't drop anything and no one will notice. I was caught checking my rundown. That's the thing I have here that tells me where I am in the show, and I often get lost in it. Oh, this is a slightly unpleasant subject. I had noticed on here that I was going to do something presumably amusing at this point about a thing that's on that I did out in Hollywood. I was on a Western, an episode of a Western, just for the fun of it, to sort of see what it was like to go to makeup, get into costume, go to report to the set with Walter Brennan and all those things, which I did. And I filmed it and showed a lot of it on the show. And the show is called Alias Smith and Jones. And the fun has sort of been removed from this quite suddenly by the fact that one of the stars was found dead the other day in his apartment. Peter Duell, very nice man who I knew briefly, obviously, and of apparently a self-inflicted wound from a gun. And he was, I believe that there are about 3 more episodes that he's in. And anyway, that is on tomorrow night, and I just wanted to say to any relatives or friends of his that I was very sorry about that. And obviously I'm not, a lot of people called it when it is on. I have 3 lines in the thing, and I'm very sorry about Peter Duell. Let me introduce now a gentleman who comes here often with a bundle of papers and a couple of books under his arm. And this time he has 2, I don't know how he does it. This one is called Action for a Change, a student's manual for public interest organizing by Ralph Nader and Donald Ross. And another one called The Workers, Portraits of 9 American Job Holders, blue-collar workers, I believe they are, this group that Ralph Nader's concerned about. And they're interesting books, and the man, as you know, is very interesting, although not a great deal is known about him personally, but I think he likes it that way. You welcome, please, the incomparable Mr. Ralph Nader. How are you, RN?
Fine.
Happy New Year and all of that stuff. Is it going to be a good year for us generally? Can you think of any reasons why it's going to be better than last year that you're actively involved with?
I think it'll be a better year.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of issues that are going to not be swept under the rug, partly because of the campaign, and I think it'll be a more candid year, and a year when citizens begin organizing more.
Yeah. What's uppermost on your mind right now, the things you're...
Just that.
Fronts you're operating on.
Actually,
yeah.
we're really being fascinated by the response of students and people in the community around the country to an idea which is very simple. It's several thousand years old, but it's been neglected. Namely, that if people are going to be able to do something about the problems that they define as problems, not that someone else defines as problems, in their community and state and nation, that they've got to organize in a non-bureaucratic, non-institutional way. In other words, they've got to become more involved in what might be called a citizenship lifestyle, where they take what's increasingly a lot of leisure time, particularly for white-collar workers. And they begin looking at citizenship, which is, in effect, defining problems that people can do something about, developing solutions as a science or as an art, as a demand on organized activity or a demand on skill. This almost seems too trite, but if we stop and think about it, everything that people do in this country by way of their work is considered a skill, whether it's a blue-collar or white-collar skill, management, labor, professors, whatever the case may be, except the most important one, which is developing a real, exceptionally quality-oriented citizenship action. So instead of just saying, well, we can't do anything about the lack of mass transit in the cities, or can't do anything about pollution or property taxes or nursing homes or Washington, people say, we're going to develop some energy, some time. We're going to support some people working full-time as professional citizens, representing community groups or statewide student groups, and begin to develop the science of citizenship in terms of getting things done. That's basically what it's about. And
You know, do you suppose that irritates a certain number of people? I mean, I think your very existence irritates a lot of people. I don't just mean the people whose cars you forced to be sent back or the companies manufacturing them, but I mean, there's a sense in which the existence of a Ralph Nader sort of puts us all on our mettle to do something about something because you do so much. Do you run into people who think you ought to keep your big mouth shut?
Yeah, well, obviously, for example, government agencies, corporations, they don't like to be held up to an external standard of behavior or evaluation. They don't like to be evaluated, for example, by consumers or by citizens as to how they're doing. And so they do get very irritated when we start studying them. Student groups and other groups pick a corporation, pick a government agency, knock on any door. And it's like fishing off the Grand Banks of Newfoundland. Problems all over the place. Yeah. They usually close up. Like we have a small group of students studying the ComSat, which is the Communications Satellite Corporation, is supposed to send things up and improve communications nationally and internationally. And it's sort of a half public, half private type corporation, sort of in between. And they have, in effect, closed most of the doors. They're very sensitive to having their employees interviewed, very sensitive to answering questions in writing, in effect, very sensitive to have anybody except Congress, who they have relations with in a sort of formal way, evaluate them.
Maybe they're afraid of security. Maybe they think you're spies or something.
Actually,
or somebody could pose as a Nader caller but not be one.
Well, actually, there's no security problem at all. There is an insecurity problem inside ComSat, but it's a civilian. Basically, it's for civilian communication systems using satellite technology. But you get, I think you get to appreciate that citizenship's given a lot of lip service, but the minute people start doing something about it, start studying, investigating, evaluating, then the institutions get very, very antsy. You take New York City, for example. How many studies have been made by citizens of various New York City agencies? The New York Port Authority, the mass transit system.
How would they know how to go about it?
Yeah, that's one of the points, that they almost have to start from scratch because there aren't any models around. But what they would do is they would get people who have time and a variety of skills. For example, administrative know-how, legal know-how, tax know-how, personnel know-how. It doesn't have to be really very sophisticated to begin with. But then they sit down and they say, what are these institutions supposed to be doing for the people? Are they doing it? Well, let's see what they're putting out in their annual reports. Let's see what they're telling the people they're doing. Let's see what the dissidents in these organizations feel. There are always a lot of people who think inside the organization who think that things can be better. And then one thing leads to another, like a train of sequences, until you get a mass of information which can lead you on to more information, more leads. It's sort of like a reporter, an investigative reporter. But citizens have got to do it in a much more intensive way all over the country.